Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very happy to see you here today in our panel about Afghanistan. My name is Amin Wahidi, and I am going to be moderating this panel. And we'll be discussing different things about Afghanistan. And the discussions will be divided into different parts. So, first of all, I would like to introduce the two speakers we have here with us, who is directly coming from Kabul and lately has been involved in the every political changes or the social activism in Afghanistan. On my left, here is Mr. Daoud Naji, a former BBC journalist, university lecturer, and currently a senior member of enlightened movement in Afghanistan. Mr. Naji has been, not only has been reporting from Afghanistan and not only has been within the changes in Afghanistan and has seen many things by his own eyes, and he's been feeling everything from within. He also has participated in those changes by his social activisms, by his presence on the scene. Then on my left side, I have Mr. Basir Ahang, who is a journalist, human rights activist, and poet. He lives in Italy, and he is going to, then when he is speaking, he'll be speaking in Italian and will be translated by the staff, by our colleague. I myself am Amin Wahidi, an independent filmmaker, and I may not talk a lot here because usually the filmmakers let their films talk rather than they themselves say something. So due to shortage of time today here, we may not be able to project maybe a trailer of my documentary, but we have other videos in the middle in order to take you all within the what's going on. So what we say in the middle, we may also have some photos and some videos so that to let you know visually and within the depth of our discussions. Mr. Naji, the first discussion, or the first question I'm going to begin, it's related to Afghanistan. Despite 17 years of presence of the heavy presence of international community and the armed forces from the West, from the international community, the NATO forces, we still do not see any hope, or we still face insecurity, and Afghanistan is considered to be a country which, toward negative terms, it has the highest positions. What's your opinion about current Afghanistan? How do you define the current Afghanistan?
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We are talking about one of the longest war in the world. And the age of war in Afghanistan is exactly the same of age of me. I was born in 16 July 1973, at the same days that Mr. Daoud Khan staged a coup against our king, who was in Rome. And then our king stayed here for more than 35 years. He returned to his countries after a long time, but the war is still going and continued. So I would like to present you my first-hand and unartificial narrative from that country and that war. I lived under Taliban control in that country and I living in the country which is a continued more than 45 years. So for starting, let me to begin with a short story from my childhood. I'm just telling this story. When I was 7 or 8, I was in a shared taxi rider together with my grandfather. When the other passenger was discussing on politics, they tried the taxi driver when passing a building, pointing at a door and said, Afghanistan will have not peace and development until this door open. Long years later, when I was working with the BBC, I realized that the door that the taxi driver was pointing at was the United States Embassy door in Kabul. It was closed after the communist regime. Finally, that gate was opened in 2002, a time when Afghanistan has lost almost everything, and its citizens didn't even have control of their own beards. The arrival of NATO forces brought back the country a sense of hope, and most importantly, liberation, hope for change, and hope for better tomorrow. The past experience, such as the Marshall Plan of the rebuilding Europe, had even given more color to this hope. Together with this hope, there also arrived money, employment, and most importantly of all, a fundamental change in Afghanistan's political rhetoric. We could hear the terms like democracy, human rights, gender equality, good governance, election, rule of law, and freedom of speech. Anyhow, doors of schools and offices were opened for girls and women. A significant number of people voluntarily took part in the disarmament campaign. The Constitution was written and passed, and 4 rounds of elections were held. Billions of dollars were spent, and thousands of soldiers from different armies, including the United States, Europe countries, and Australia, unfortunately lost their lives. 18 years passed. But now, a school in almost half of Afghanistan is again closed for girls and even for boys. Those who had voluntarily handed over their weapons have either bought weapons or are thinking of doing so. Now, although the gates of the United States Embassy in Kabul is open, but it's surrounded by a huge, mighty wall. NATO soldiers in Kabul are forced to move around in helicopters. And their supporters' country, Afghanistan, has scored very well in opium production, corruption, and bad governance. So why did all happen? From my point of view, all of this has one clear and important cause, and that is the international community, keeping with some Afghan politicians, ignored altogether the nature and the essence of conflict in Afghanistan and did nothing to tackle the roots of the conflict. Instead, they built the new Afghanistan right on the top of the earthquakes. I think in this part, Mr. Ahang also have some points, and then I will continue it forward.
Why not? So the image Mr. Naji is giving all of us right now out of Afghanistan. So this is the image of actually the history he has been witnessing since his childhood until today. So from the time he remembers his memories from until now, there has been war, war, and war. So we come back to you, Mr. Naji, for further questions. Mr. Ahang, what do you think of Afghanistan today, and what is your definition of today's Afghanistan? How do you see the situation?
Buonasera a tutti. Io vorrei parlare in italiano perché volevo dare uno spazio anche a quelli che parlano solo italiano, e Lorena mi aiuterà con la traduzione. Grazie della vostra presenza, grazie di tutti quelli che hanno lavorato per organizzare questa bellissima festival, quelli che ci hanno dato questo spazio per condividere alcune informazioni che è molto utile per il nostro mondo.
Oggi io vorrei... Si sente?
Sì, sì, sì.
Oggi io vorrei... Sorry, I was supposed to talk in English. So this evening I will be speaking in Italian so that also the people who only speak Italian can understand what I say. Good evening to everyone, and thanks a lot to all the people who have worked for this festival and for the people who organized the festival, because they have given us the space to talk about issues about Afghanistan that we don't often have the space to discuss.
Ovviamente stasera non possiamo come spiegare tutto quello che sta succedendo in Afghanistan, che è successo durante i 17 anni della presenza delle forze internazionali in Afghanistan, però cercheremo di dare un'immagine diversa da quello che finora avete ricevuto dall'Afghanistan.
This evening we won't have the time to talk about everything and all the things that happened in the past 17 years of international presence in Afghanistan, but we will try to speak about this and to give a different image than the one you have had so far.
Rispondere alla domanda di Amin è molto difficile, anche perché dopo di 17 anni della presenza delle forze internazionali in Afghanistan, noi abbiamo perso tanta possibilità per andare avanti, e adesso noi parleremo perché, e parleremo da un Afghanistan che al momento, con la presenza delle forze internazionali, è solo 57% del territorio è sotto controllo del governo attuale, e il resto del paese sotto controllo dei gruppi terroristici che ora vengono chiamati ribelli oppure come chiamano vengono chiamati da parte del governo i fratelli sì.
It is difficult to reply to Amin's question, because after 17 years of the presence of the international troops in Afghanistan, we have lost the possibility, the opportunities to carry on with our lives. But we will try to explain why Afghanistan is in such a situation and why 57% of its territory is under the control of the government, but all the rest is under the control of terrorist groups, which are now not called terrorists anymore, but they are defined as rebels or as the dissatisfied brothers.
L'obiettivo della comunità internazionale in Afghanistan e l'obiettivo dell'operazione Enduring Freedom in Afghanistan era questo, di combattere contro i gruppi terroristici, portare la pace in Afghanistan, cambiare la situazione delle donne e poi ricostruire il paese. Ma dopo 17 anni ancora l'Afghanistan è il paese più corrotto, ha un governo più corrotto del mondo, e come SIGAR ha registrato il ex ministro dell'istruzione dell'Afghanistan, secondo SIGAR, ha rubato 769 milioni di dollari, ma ancora lui ancora Ashraf Ghani ha scelto, presidente dell'Afghanistan, ha scelto lui come ministro per gli affari parlamentari.
The international community goal and the goal of the Operation Enduring Freedom was to fight against terrorism groups, was to bring a peace and to change the situation of women and girls in the country and to rebuild the country. Yet after 17 years, Afghanistan is still one of the most corrupted countries in the world. And as SIGAR registered, the former Ministry of Education, SIGAR is the Special Inspector General for Afghanistan Reconstruction. So according to this institution, the former Ministry for Education, he has been accused of stealing $769 million. Yet Ashraf Ghani has still been chosen as a ministry for the parliamentary affairs.
La situazione delle donne, la Commissione dei diritti umani dell'Afghanistan, solo nei primi 10 mesi del 2017 ha registrato 3.800 casi di violenza contro le donne.
In the first 10 months of 2017, the Human Rights Commission of Afghanistan registered more than 3,800 cases of violence against women.
Freedom of speech, supporting open media in Afghanistan. Nell'anno 2017 ha registrato che 21 giornalisti sono stati uccisi e 57 altri sono stati feriti. E il governo attuale dell'Afghanistan in 4 province ha dissuaso 50 giornalisti che criticavano il governo dal continuare il loro lavoro. Alcuni di questi giornalisti sono stati minacciati ed alcuni di loro sono invece stati assunti come impiegati o consulenti con un salario altissimo per allontanarli dalla media.
According to the organization supporting open media in Afghanistan, in 2017, more than 21 journalists were killed and 57 were wounded. the current government in Afghanistan in 4 provinces convinced 50 journalists who were critical of the government to stop their work. Some of these journalists were threatened, while others were employed as in the public offices, public service, and they were paid a really high salary so that they wouldn't go back to media, they wouldn't go back to their previous work.
La Banca Mondiale ha riportato che la povertà è cresciuta in modo molto preoccupante in Afghanistan. 2 milioni di persone in questo momento in Afghanistan vivono senza lavoro. Il 39% della popolazione vive sotto la soglia di povertà.
The World Bank stated that poverty is increasing at an alarming rate in Afghanistan. There are over 2 million people without any job, and 39% of the Afghanistan population is living below the poverty line.
E poi in Europa, che viviamo noi, dal 2014 finora sono registrati almeno 183.000 richiedenti asilo provenienti dall'Afghanistan.
And since 2014 in Europe, there have been at least 183,000 asylum seekers who are coming from Afghanistan.
E questo solo una parte del risultato di 17 anni della presenza delle forze internazionali in Afghanistan.
And these are just some of the results and the fact of 17 years of international community and international troops forces in Afghanistan.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ahang, for your very detailed and very exact numbers, and the numbers you gave, it just give us an opener view of how things are in Afghanistan. Now I would like to ask Mr. Naji, with all these problems that exist in Afghanistan after 17 years of international presence there, so this among the people there should be like movements who are fed up with, there are movements. So why? That's why all of these problems happen, and if there are, what do people do to bring changes?
So as I said before, that all of this bad situation that we are faced with is because of the international community and the Afghan officials both ignored the nature and the essence of Afghanistan conflict. And now I would like to tell you that what is the essence and the nature of conflict in Afghanistan. In this part, I would like to start with some historical example to be understandable for you. First example, in the 1940s and 1950s, when the market for the left-wing tendencies in Afghanistan was hot, several left parties emerged in Afghanistan. The Democratic Party of Afghanistan people, led by the former Soviet Union, and another party by the name of Sholei Javid, followers of the Mao Tse-tung, led by China. But the People Democratic Party was soon divided in 2 branches, Khalq and Parcham. Most of the Khalq branch was a Pashtun, and most of the Parcham was Tajik, and almost the Hazara people are gathered in the Sholei Javid. Okay, in the other hand, the same thing was in the Islamic parties that were made against the left-wingers and were fighting against the Soviet Union. For example, in this side also, most of the Pashtuns are gathered in Hikmatyar Islamic parties. Tajik come together in Jamiat led by Burhanuddin Rabbani, and almost the Hazaras gathers in Wahdat parties led by Abdul Ali Mazari, and all the Uzbeks gathered in Junbish Islami led by General Dostum. So, by their names, for example, Islamic Party or Democratic Left Party, for example, it seems that these are ideological parties. But as I said, but in reality, they were all formed in ethnic basis. That is one example. The other example, on 7th March of 1990, General Shahnawaz Tanai, Kabul's left-leaning defense minister, staged a coup against President Dr. Najibullah from the same party. Both of them were communist. But when he was defeated, he escaped and went to the Islamic Gulbuddin Hikmatyar and right wing. And he accepted because of his ethnicity. The other hand, a General Dostum, who for years fought for the communist regime and Dr. Najibullah, finally left the government because of recognizing Najibullah's ethnic policies, and joined by the Tajiks and Hazara leaders and met and formed a coalition that led to the collapse of Najib's government. These are all obvious indication that the war in Afghanistan is neither over Islam, neither over communism, nor over human rights or democracy. But the struggle is over political power and which person has what amount of power and how the mechanism of the division of power should work. So, if we take into account the long-range nature of the neighboring countries and the war on drug, the complexity of this multi-layered conflict is understandable to us. So, an Afghanistan without Taliban began after the Bonn conferences in 2002. The Bonn conferences was the only time that the politicians in Afghanistan and the international community talks about the main conflict in Afghanistan and agreed on the percentage of ethnic participation in political power. But unfortunately, the executive guarantee was not considered for it, and thus did not work. Now, 17 years after the NATO presence in Afghanistan, this country is more unstable than ever before. The protest rate is very high, and every day a new tension is created. Afghanistan's expectation of Ashraf Ghani as a technocrat of the West was to support the universal values of human rights, gender equality, democracy, and citizenship rights. Mr. Ghani had a key slogan in his campaign saying, "No Afghan is lower or upper than any other Afghan." In this slogan, Mr. Ghani clearly indicated that Afghanistan had never been equal as citizens. But when he came to power, more than any other time, he concentrated power on particular circle of Pashtuns. They pulled the Hazaras and Uzbeks out of power and fell into conflict with the Tajiks and fueled the main conflict in Afghanistan, which was the terrible struggle of power. And now we return after 17 years at the beginning stage. And day by day, the protest is increasing, and you can see that.
Thank you very much. So the image of Afghanistan, diversity of the ethnics Mr. Naji gave here, if we see in the advanced countries or in European countries, the diversity leads a country, the multiculturalism and diversity, towards progress and advancement. While in Afghanistan, it's the vice versa. It becomes the cause for tensions and clashes and discrimination and mass killings. What's your opinion regarding the ethnic diversity and discrimination that exists in Afghanistan?
Oh, sempre le domande è difficile. Come Naji ha citato, e sapete che Afghanistan è un paese molto etnico, abbiamo diverse etnie e in Afghanistan vivono come decine di etnie diverse che hanno le storie, cultura, lingua diverse. Però tra loro sono 4 etnie che possiamo dire sono maggioranze. E queste 4 etnie sempre ha giocato il ruolo politico in Afghanistan. Il primo è etnia dominante dal 1747 fino adesso, Pashtuni. Poi abbiamo Tagiki, abbiamo Uzbeki e abbiamo Hazara. Poi
as Naji, as I mentioned before, in Afghanistan we have many ethnic groups. We have dozens of them with a different history, culture, and language. And there are dozens of ethnic groups, but there are 4 main ones. And these are the Pashtun, and the Tajiki, the Uzbeki, and the Hazara. And these groups have had, each of them has had a political dimension, a political role. The Pashtun, they are the main one, the dominant one since 1974.
No. 17.
Sorry. 1747. Okay.
Problema dove queste etnie diverse, con le culture, con le lingue diverse, possono essere come diversi fiori di un giardino, ma
the problem is that these different groups could be like different flowers in a garden, but
non siamo arrivati ad un punto di capire il linguaggio di uno e l'altro.
But we are not yet at the point where we can understand each other's language.
Linguaggio che dico in modo non solo la lingua, tutto l'aspetto, perché fino adesso da 1747 che nasce la forma del governo in Afghanistan fino adesso, non siamo riusciti ad arrivare in un punto dove tutti gli abitanti dell'Afghanistan possa sentirsi come cittadino di avere diritto e dovere uguali.
When I say language, I'm not speaking about only the language we speak, but about the culture more in general and other things. And the problem is that so far, since 1747, which is the date when the Afghanistan form of government, the form of current government was born, since then we haven't yet reached the point where every citizen, no matter their ethnic groups, feel like a citizen with the same rights?
È molto difficile perché sempre sono state le etnie che sempre hanno sofferto, le etnie che sempre sono state discriminate, le etnie che sono sempre state marginalizzate dalla società e non sono state accettate come cittadino, ma come potete trovare un articolo di decine di pagine su National Geographic. Tanti abitanti e cittadini dell'Afghanistan vivono in Afghanistan come stranieri, perché non sentono di avere nessun diritto in quel territorio.
It's difficult, the situation, because there have always been ethnic groups which have been discriminated, isolated, marginalized, and they are not accepted fully as citizens. And you can find many articles about this also in National Geographic, where you will see that many people live in Afghanistan, but they feel like foreigners. They don't feel like full citizens.
Thank you very much. Okay. Now, as before, I mentioned that Mr. Naji, when we talked about the all objections and all protests and demonstrations against the expectation of the people in Afghanistan, they wanted peace, they wanted justice, of course, they wanted reconstruction, stability, and prosperity in life. But as we have seen, through these 17 years, things happened, but not as the people expected. So this problem caused the formation of movements, formation of different civil movements who protests against the Afghan administrations, current Afghan administrations. Among them, the biggest one, there were two biggest ones. One was Tabassum in 2015, and the other one was Roshanai movement, Jumbesh Roshanai, or it's been named the Enlightenment movement or Enlightening movement. So if you check, maybe if you check on the net, you could find about it more information. This, in the history of Afghanistan, Enlightenment movement was the movement with a great number of demonstrators who came on the streets and demanded the equality and fair treatment from the Afghan government. But unfortunately, in July 2016, sorry, their biggest demonstration was attacked by terrorist groups, and neither the Afghan government took responsibility and nor some terrorist groups. So it remained as an enigma. Before opening the discussion about enlightenment movement of Afghanistan, we would like to show like a few minutes clip of videos from their protests on Kabul streets. The quality may not be so great, however, at least it shows how this movement was working and how it works. Then we continue the discussions and information. the sound is missing. However, the images, they have their voices. Okay. Non c'è problema.
جنبش روشنایی در جاده‌های شهر کابل. با وجود هماورگرهای زیاد، کابل به روز دوشنبه گواه راهپیمایی گسترده بر ضد فیصله 11 صبر کابینه بود. مردان و زنان زیاد در جاده‌های شهر کابل برآمدند و شعار عدالت و برابری سر می‌دهند. تنها خواست معترضان لغو فیصله 11 صبر کابینه و انتقال خط برق 500 کیلووات ترکمنستان از مسیر بامیان است. با وجود درخواست‌های مکرر برای برگزار نشدن این تظاهرات از سوی حکومت، با آن هم قسمی که شما می‌بینید تظاهرات گسترده امروز در کابل برگزار شده و جمعیت کثیری از شهروندان کابل شعارهای عدالت و برابری را سر می‌تن و از حکومت می‌خواهند که برق 500 کیلووات ترکمنستان از طریق بامیان به کابل انتقال بده.
دادخواهی میکنه و این صدا و این جنبش هیچ وقت آرام نمیشه.
راهپیمایی از جاده شهید مزاری آغاز شد. هرچند مسیر نهایی این راهپیمایی چهارراه فواره آب در برابر کاخ ریاست جمهوری اعلام شده بود، اما بسته شدن جاده‌های منتهی به کاخ ریاست جمهوری با کانتینرها و موانع از سوی حکومت سبب شد تا معترضان چهارراه دیمزنگ را محل تجمع نهاییشان برگزینند. با این هم برخی معترضان تلاش داشتند از این محل پیشتر بروند، اما با موانع برخوردند و با درخواست جنبش روشنایی دوباره به چهارراه دیمزنگ برگشتند. یکی از انتقادهای اصلی در اینجا از حکومت بستن جاده هاست.
Pausa molto riflessiva. Lasciamo. This is great. It gives you time to think. It's okay. So this moment had to be heard by the ear.
ما را از این خاک و از این وطن در قرن هاست که جدا میدانن و دولت افغانستان. ما جدا نیستیم از افغانستان. ما هم در یک خاک زندگی کردیم، خون دادیم، خون میتیم، ولی حق خود میگیریم.
Okay, thanks. In this case, maybe a moment of silence and respect, a tribute to those killed on 23rd July in the Mazang Square of Kabul. Please. Thanks. In videos, I mean, before the videos, we have given some information. And right now, beside us, we've got one of the leaders of the movement, the Enlightenment movement, who was present in that square and has been injured as well. So I think more information and what Enlightened movement is and what it wanted and what it wants, we are going to hear from Mr. Naji.
Okay. It is difficult to describe everything in a very short time, but on 2 p.m. afternoon, we have not 86 of our friends with us, and there was 334 injured. But the Afghan government did not help us even to help for one of our injury. It was our people who helped from around the world, give us money from the communities, from personal packet, and we sent some of our injuries to India, or some of them in Kabul. Okay. All of 86 persons who were killed was bachelor, master, 6 of them PhD, and 7 of them was the Fulbrightist. They educated in US universities and came back to Afghanistan to be a part of the change, to be a part of the better of Afghanistan. But all of the doors for employment, employed them for the governments were closed totally. According to the Bonn Agreement, with I said before, it is written document, you can find it. The Hazara people should be 20% from up to down in the government. But according to their own government formal register, we are 0.4%. Okay, when did this two demonstration happened? The first one happened because our people was traveling from Afghanistan to Quetta, Pakistan, somewhere in the south of Afghanistan. 30% hostaged. After 3 months, the government did not try for them to release them. And finally, 9 of them, including one 9-year-old girl, beheaded. The people brought the bodies to Kabul and demonstrate against the government. But the government did not pay attention. Until now, we don't know who was killed them. No investigation after that. The second demonstration happened after a development project. According to a German special companies by the name of Fechner, made the Afghanistan Energy Master Plan and got it $4 million from the Afghanistan government to make this master plan. The suggestion of this company was that the one transmission power line who came from Turkmenistan in the north to the south of Afghanistan should come via Bamiyan because there was 2 coal mines, and if the government can build some productive energy there, and then can instruct the 2 big mines, one of the iron mine in Hajigak and other is a copper mine in Kabul. Both of them are very big, and it was very helpful for Afghanistan economy. But the Afghan government changed and rewrote it. Why? Because of the systematic discrimination we faced with many years until now. But unfortunately, we knocked the door from all the international communities and the international community representative in Afghanistan. EU Union, United States embassies, UK, any others, the biggest international communities. For example, the Amnesty International even have not a single report about this big explosion. Meanwhile, they every day reporting about the Taliban who are in the prison. It was one single example. And we talk with them all the time. And all of them know that about the everything. But the representative of the Western country in Afghanistan openly blind themselves about the women, about the children, about the corruption, about the everything. They know. Unfortunately, the Western countries represented in Afghanistan by 2 types of people, politicians and armies officers. I do believe that these 2 types of people don't believe in democracy and human rights. If they playing according to democracy role in Italy or UK and United States, it is because of you, because of citizens, because of many strong non-government foundations who support the democracy and human rights. Otherwise, in Iraq, in Syria, in Afghanistan, and otherwise, they do not believe on democracy and human rights. And they playing their own dirty games by your taxes and our bloods. And it is the big challenge of the world. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. There has been a confusion in defining the scope of war in Afghanistan. From the beginning, it was the mission of mission of freeing Afghanistan, and then it changed slowly on the name and the nature of the war. The same thing, the definition of the terrorists also changed. So it was a time that the media began to softening the words. The first it was terrorists, and then they become rebels, and then they become disagreeing brothers or so. This had an impact on the point of view of people to see things in realities. What's your opinion, Mr. Ahang, in this regard? Why the international community support the Afghan government rewards the terrorists? They're bribing them. What's behind it?
Excuse me, Ahang, before you... I want to say finally for you guys that, as I said, after 17 years and thousands of the brave soldiers from the any armies, including the Italy, were killed there, and billions of dollars spent. Now, our fare is, but now, after 17 years, and especially in 2014, the international community is special. For example, if they come for democracy and human rights, they totally ignored the Afghanistan's vote. The election held, people went, voted. And we had reported that at least 8 people lost their finger because the Taliban find out, okay, you voted, and cut their fingers. But finally, the result did not come from the polling station. Okay? A guy by the name of John Kerry came there, okay, forget all the votes and ballots paper. I want to decide to come both of you. One of them president, another chief of executive. Meanwhile, according to our constitution law, we have nothing by the name of chief of executive. Everything is lost. So now my fear and my generation's fear in Afghanistan is that NATO and the global community will face the same experience as the former Soviet Union. Why? Because the Soviet Union only supported the Kabul government and did not care about the peoples. But eventually, all their expenses become useless. Our fear in the international community will feel because of the lack of attention to the realities of Afghanistan, and Afghanistan will lose its last chance and fall the extremist group forever. That's, we will try that. For example, Enlightenment movement had 3 demonstrations after this explosion in Kabul. We had demonstration twice in Munich with NATO summit there, in Brussels, in London, in Washington, in Canberra, Australia, in Warsaw, yeah? Anywhere that there was a meeting about Afghanistan, all the delegation of Afghanistan were there, we also were there, to loud our voice that, guys, Afghanistan will lost their last chances, and the world as well. And this is our voice for you as a journalist and as a people that you like to help the Afghanistan. You like to reconstruct their countries, but our effort both is in very worst situation and in danger forever.
Thank you very much.
Io è molto difficile rispondere alla domanda perché le forze internazionali hanno cambiato la loro idea in Afghanistan e i terroristi vengono chiamati ribelli, eccetera, perché questa è una decisione politica, una decisione che è stato preso sulla base degli interessi delle forze internazionali in Afghanistan, però ci serve tanto tempo per spiegare, perché ci sono tanti casi, tante cose che dovrebbe essere spiegato, se no non possiamo capire. Io prima poi
It's difficult to reply to this question on why the international forces changed their attitude, changed the way they were defining terrorists and their relationship with the government. It's a political decision that was taken because of their interest. But we would need a lot of time to explain why this decision was taken and why this happened, because there are many things to explain to understand really the context.
E poi ormai non è necessario di parlare dai talebani, perché oltre cambiamento del linguaggio hanno cambiato anche i nomi dei gruppi terroristici. Ormai i talebani sono scaduti. Adesso abbiamo ISIS. E per capire cosa può succedere con questi nomi diversi, vi parlo di due cose, due notizie. L'ispettore generale speciale per la costruzione dell'Afghanistan ha registrato solo nei primi 11 mesi del 2017 ha registrato 23.984 incidenti. Questo significa più di 71 incidenti al giorno. Poi, solo nel mese scorso sono stati registrati 171 attacchi terroristici, nei quali sono stati uccisi più di 1.018 civili e sono stati feriti 792 persone. E questa è la situazione che purtroppo con questo passaggio di passare dai talebani all'ISIS, adesso, soprattutto quest'anno, io personalmente sono veramente preoccupato, perché avremo un anno più sanguinoso della storia dell'Afghanistan. Siccome prima ho detto solo 57% del territorio è sotto controllo del governo, e poi la comunità internazionale ormai non vuole combattere contro quelli gruppi che prima venivano chiamati terroristi.
Now we don't need to talk about the Taliban anymore. Not only the language has changed about these groups, even like the names of these terrorist groups have changed. Now, for example, we have ISIS. And to understand what is happening, I will tell you two stories. One is that the Special Inspector General for Afghanistan Reconstruction documented that in the first 18 months of 2017, there were 23,984 incidents. This means more than 71 incidents every day. And last month, there were 171 attacks, terrorist attacks. And in these attacks, more than 1,018 civilians died, and at least 792 people were wounded, according to a research of Patchwork Agency. And this is the situation. And unfortunately, with what's going on and the Taliban instead of ISIS and so on, I'm very, very worried, because this year is going to be even more bloody than the previous one. Because as I mentioned before, 57% of the territory in Afghanistan is under control of the government, and the rest is under the control of terrorist groups.
very much. Due to shortage of time, we are here just with one last comment of mine on if the international community sincerely wants to bring changes, prosperity and peace in Afghanistan, it's important to help and support civic movements like the ones we saw here, instead of supporting a group of people in a government that is full of corruption. Because right now, Afghanistan has the title of one of the most corrupt countries in the world, one of the poorest and one of the unsafest countries in the world. So the international community has one way, if one to come out of Afghanistan with a happy ending, that is to support such movements, invest on them, not the corrupt people who govern the Afghan. So due to shortage of time from there, they say the time is over, but any questions, please. Sì.
Cioè, un minuto posso aggiungere una cosa. Io avevo tante cose da raccontare, per esempio sull'ISIS e sulla divisione di talebani dopo la morte di Mullah Omar, però alla fine io volevo dare anche una soluzione. Come possiamo arrivare ad una soluzione, no? Perché dire solo come raccontare cosa sta succedendo, cosa è successo, eccetera, e poi io non ho più speranza di chiedere aiuto alle forze internazionali, perché ormai loro hanno l'interesse che non è lontano da quello che voglio io. Quindi io penso che per arrivare alla pace, alla democrazia e poi per avere come stabilità di sicurezza in Afghanistan, l'unica strada è cambiare sistema politico. Noi, anche quelli che i paesi che sono presenti in Afghanistan non sentono la nostra voce, però stiamo andando sulla strada di cambiare il sistema politico e di andare verso un sistema del federalismo. E così ogni etnia, ogni popolo può avere il suo almeno diritto basilare e ognuno di loro possono aiutare a ricostruire il loro casa e così magari non verranno anche attaccati dagli altri, perché in quel momento in Afghanistan, che adesso non esiste un linguaggio comune tra di noi, l'unico sistema per noi può essere federalismo e quel sistema può creare un interesse comune e un linguaggio per capire, per andare avanti. Senza avere un interesse come comune, senza avere un linguaggio per capire, non possiamo arrivare mai alla pace. Grazie per la vostra attenzione.
There are many things to talk about, the ISIS, the Taliban, but I also wanted to speak about the solutions. And I don't have any more hope of asking the support of the international community, but I do think that to have a peace, democracy, stability and security, we needed to change the political system, but which is something that the other countries, the international countries, don't understand. But I think we would need federalism so that every ethnic group can have their right as citizens and rebuild their lives. If there is, like now, there is not a common language between us, we need to have a federalism, so to have a common interest and a common language to go forward. Otherwise, there cannot be peace. And thank you all.
Thanks a lot. Si può avere delle domande?
Chi ha domande possiamo parlare fuori.
Unfortunately. Thanks a lot for your very warm presence. It was great. Thank you.